Hello and welcome to Bloomberg Quint. You're watching the fine print. From luxury car makers like Mercedes and BMW to passenger car makers like Tata Motors, Hyundai and M&M anticipating a price reduction in the GST regime, car makers are offering massive discounts to consumers so that you don't put off that purchase to July 1. Will the season of discounts continue? On the GST countdown today, we are putting that question to John Paul, President of the Federation of Automobile Dealers Association, Vinkesh Gulati, partner at United Automobiles, who joins us from Allahabad, and Saurabh Kedia, Director at Kedia Group, who joins us from Kolkata. And Ritesh Kanodia of Dhruva Advisors is here with us in the studio to answer queries that our Skype guests may have. John, let me come to you first. The cumulative incidence of central and states taxes is estimated to come down from what, 53% to 43%? How much of that benefit you'd be able to pass on to consumers?
See, we'll have to naturally pass it on to consumers, and that is what every dealer will do. Because as soon as the manufacturer reduces the price, the dealer will also reduce the price. And it is better because for a long term, on a long-term basis, the sales will go up, there will be more visibility on the roads, and that will help them sell more cars.
Sure. Okay, Vinkesh, I'll come to you. What are dealers currently doing? What are some of the challenges that you are facing in Allahabad while transitioning into the GST regime?
Actually, the vehicle sales are not a problem because these schemes are good and the customers are taking it. But wherever the issues are is because of the inventory of old stock. Maybe spares, maybe accessories, or even vehicles which are more than 1 year old. So it's not like electronic market that you can do 50% off and all these stocks are off. Like spares and accessories, there are still items which are 3 years old. And all the auto dealers, not in Allahabad, all over India, are confused what to do about those stocks. They see a direct 100% excise duty loss in that.
Sure. Saurabh, is that something that dealers in Kolkata are also struggling with?
So I think what has happened is that the government has tried to devise policies in order to bring those who are non-compliant into the mainstream. And the auto industry is somehow suffering the brunt of it because we are already a very, very compliant business, and because of that all our stocks are already declared and we are into the formal channel. But the stipulation of more than 1 year old stock not being allowed for input credit is hurting us very badly. In spite of having excise invoices, approvals from manufacturers, we are unable to take credit of that, and it's a huge amount of money locked into that. So the biggest loss that the dealers are facing is a loss in input credit for most of these items, which are going to go down in terms of price, final pricing to consumers from 1st of July. The hit is in crores for every dealer. So the overall impact is going to be huge for the sector.
Thanks, Saurabh. Let me take that to Ritesh. I mean, what can dealers do to fix this?
See, 1 year stock is a problem because the government has not given any relaxation on the 1 year stock holding period. The rule says, if you have an inventory which is more than 1 year old, you would not get the credit. The only thing which I am not very sure about is that whether that 1 year applies to a credit which you take on a 60-40% basis, or is it also applicable to when you have an excise duty paying document in your hand. So till date what was the practice was that dealers were never issued a excise paid document, right, because they were not eligible to take any credit and they were really not concerned. What manufacturers have recently started or importers have recently started is giving them excise duty paying documents.
In the last several months,
yes, in the last. Now what is also happening is there is a provision which is going to be introduced, which is your credit transfer document.
Right.
That is still in a draft stage mode. Unfortunately, that provision only addresses a manufacturer, not an importer. But my understanding is that it is being looked at. Now the question is, when this credit transfer document comes in, the dealers can actually approach the manufacturers and the importers to take that CTD and take credit of the excise duty. I don't exactly remember whether that 1 year is only for 40/60 or is it also for if you have an excise paying document validly available with you.
Okay, Vinkesh, have you got any sort of comfort from the manufacturer or your vendors from whom you are sourcing these spare parts, that if at all they'll be able to sort of shoulder some pain on this transition stock?
All the OEMs are very clear that they will not be supporting us in the spares stock, the inventory stock. And I'll also answer that 1 year clause. What I have gone through, the whatever the news is in the market, is that pre 1 year we won't be able to get any percentage of excise input, nor 40, nor 60, nor even anything. So when we went to OEMs with this, that we'll be losing a lot of money in that, they were also very clear that they'll not be able to support us in this because they've already paid excise, and then they cannot support us in whatever losses we have due to that.
And what sort of losses are you staring at owing to that?
Any dealer, any B-town dealer is normally carrying a stock of 3 crores of spares. So you can easily assume one dealer would be losing around 30 lakhs, and we have around what 10,000 dealers all over India. So very easily calculatable. It is many crores, maybe hundreds of thousands of crores what we'll be losing.
Okay. Ritesh, I want to come to the used cars market. How again, the GST will impact this market, because there are a lot of schemes, right, that I can go in with a used, my existing car, a pre-owned car, and in an exchange offer buy a new car. So say for instance, my old car comes to about 2 lakh, the sale value, and the new car is about 10 lakhs. So will the GST be applicable on that 10 lakhs or that 8 lakhs?
The GST remains applicable on 10 lakhs.
Okay.
Because see, with the used car, there is a supply. The definition of supply involves barter.
Right.
So if I am selling my car at 2 lakhs, that would not impact my GST on 10 lakh rupees.
Okay.
That is very clear in the law.
Okay, John, what do you see as the impact of this in the used car market?
Okay, I'll tell you what the problem with the used car market is. Any used car owner, when he wants to sell, he has 2 ways of selling it. He can sell it to a regular dealer, or he can sell it in the broker market. Okay, now they are unregistered dealers. So there is a parallel type of sales mechanism for used cars, which is very different from most other products. So what happens is, in an organized sector like the dealers, when they buy and sell, they have to pay 28 plus the cess, whatever that amount be, depending on the vehicle. They have to pay that on the difference between the buying and selling cost. Whereas a broker does not have to put any money in. The vehicle is displayed, another customer comes and picks it up, and he is not in the road. He is paid a brokerage on which he does not pay any GST. So this difference can be huge, because 28 plus whatever says is going to be a much bigger difference than what is happening, what is prevailing in the market today. For example, in Kerala, the difference, the tax paid on the difference was only 4%, which later on the government changed it to 0.5% on the resale value. Most other states have it below 10 to 15%. And what happens is, if they put it high, if they put it into 28% plus cess, it will shift from the organized market to the unorganized market. And even in Kerala, where the tax is so low, the organized market only sells about 40% of the whole business. Whereas in other states, it's far less. Totally in the country, it's only around 15%. If the government does not move this to the organized sector, what happens in the used cars is a major problem, because the car has to be roadworthy. Most people who pick it up from brokerages do not actually do anything on the vehicle. They start using it as it is, and they will only repair it when it reaches a stage where it can't run. Whereas a dealer, when the dealer picks it up, he has to give a warranty, or at least some sort of a guarantee which is far more organized, and the customer can come back. Whereas the customer, he will not go back to the person who sold the car to him, because he is not worried, and the owner is also not bothered. So the government should make a mechanism where the business stays or comes more into the organized sector rather than move to the unorganized sector.
There is just one point which I would like to highlight, just to add to what John has said. There is another issue legally, is URD.
Okay.
So when an individual sells a used car to a dealer who is registered, the dealer will have to actually pay tax on reverse charge.
Okay.
That is something which would create a problem. In fact, what the law says is, so they distinguish between a business user and a individual user.
Okay.
If it is an individual user, you have not taken credit. You pay GST only on the differential. But if he is a business user currently, then there is a problem where the purchaser will have to pay GST on that under a URD mechanism.
So I am better off sort of representing myself as an individual consumer versus a business.
So URD to URD, absolutely. So URD to URD is not liable to GST. What John was saying is in terms of evolution of a parallel market.
Right.
Because if I sell it to a person who is not registered, there would be no GST on that.
But there is also, I mean, in that case, a credit loss as well, right?
No, see, the dealer would pay GST and take credit. That is fine.
Right.
That is possible. But the point is there is a additional compliance burden which gets created.
Okay.
Because when he sells this further on to a consumer, he will charge GST and he would take a credit. Okay. That's true.
Saurabh brought up the working capital issue, and please weigh in, John, Vinkesh and Saurabh, that where, there are free service coupon vouchers that get issued by dealers, or there is a booking advance that I give to a dealer on which currently there was no tax incidence. Yes. But I think the time of supply rules will come into play here, and the GST will be applicable even in that account.
Yes, you are absolutely correct. Yeah. You are absolutely correct, and this is a big worry for the dealership community. So there are two biggest issues. One was of course input credit, where on 1 year old stocks where impact is almost 3,000 crores nationally, and the second will be on terms of working capital, which will be even more. Going forward, because we are staring at increased working capital limit requirement of almost 25 to 35%, depending on product category, area of operation, lead times for bringing vehicles into your stockyard, etc., etc. And that amount is huge. So you are looking at maybe all India level, maybe about 20,000 crore rupees of more working capital needing to be infused into the system, which will have a direct impact on the balance sheets as well as on the margins. Unless and until manufacturers do something to reduce lead times, for example, we are hearing about bottlenecks being removed at borders, vehicles coming in faster. If all those efficiencies actually come into play, which we are hoping it will, then of course the requirement for additional working capital will reduce to some extent, but still the amount is huge.
What you started before, like free service coupon and warranty, we were originally, before also we were billing it to company and charging the VAT or the service tax, which will be similar here, but yes, the rate will go up. So there will be a concern because we will have to charge more from the company and then it will evolve. The major effect what we are expecting because of GST is because of the trade discounts, which was not taxable before. So now with GST there is no such explanation. So maybe even the trade discounts what we get, which is based on the targets or which were out of the gambit of any tax, non-service tax or VAT, will come in this gambit. And the dealers are really frightened that the company will reduce the discounts or the incentives and cover the GST from the dealer's part only.
Okay, Ritesh, how will that work? I mean, trade discounts is basically the targets that a dealer meets, and on that basis they get a certain discount from the manufacturer, right?
See, the only challenge which I see is that when a manufacturer gives a discount, target link discount to a dealer, so he would like to reduce his GST cost on account of the discount because the price is going down. Now there are provisions which say that you have to inform the discount in advance, and if you are able to inform the discount in advance, you can take a deduction of that discount. Now let us assume for a moment that they are not informing in advance and they don't get a deduction. The dealer would have already taken a credit of GST for that. So a manufacturer can actually pass a GST impact net of discount. So I don't see, so there is a cash flow issue involved, because a dealer would not reverse that GST credit and would take a credit for that particular discount element, and they would have a minimal cash flow impact. I don't see a financial loss on that model because my provisions give me a leverage.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
In a case where it is a target linked incentive, and you are not clear of that we'll be able to achieve the target, will the same thing apply what you just said?
Absolutely. Because so when you are saying you are not clear, which means that there is no discount applicable at all?
But I'm saying if I do 100 vehicles billing, I'll be getting maybe X per vehicle.
Yes.
So this is a scheme what we get, but there would be 50% dealers who will be doing it and 50% will not be able to achieve. So will this be out of the GST or will company charge GST on that?
No. See, what is happening is that, when you say discounts, my price has already been billed with GST. So that GST is already billed to you and you have taken a credit for that GST. There is no loss which is occurring to you. So if tomorrow when the company is not able to take any adjustment on GST because of discounts, you would also not reverse your credits. Because they will have to issue you a credit note with GST. And because if they give you GST, you will reverse the credit. If they don't give you GST, you will not reverse the credit. So once you are entitled to take a credit of GST, there is no financial loss per se.
Vinkesh,
that is what I am trying to say.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Can I ask a question to Ritesh, please?
Yes, please go ahead, Vinkesh.
So, Ritesh, there is one more confusion with all the dealers. Obviously, some consultants have replied, but still, the workshop where we today make an invoice to the customer, which is spares also and labor also. So, in the spares part, we charge VAT, and for the labor, we charge service tax. So, and this is the part of a bigger group, so I cannot say it comes under 75 lakhs, or I can consider this as a composite, or maybe because we sell the vehicles in the same firm and the service also. How to charge further? Will it come under composite or separate, or how to go ahead with that?
No, actually it is your call. How do you want to charge? Because let's say you do a composite billing, so this is typically maintenance contracts, and you say that in the course of rendering my maintenance services, I am going to sell you parts. If you make it as a composite contract, which is naturally bundled, you can go by work straight 18% because my essential dominant character is service. You also have an option to go by itemized billing. But what would happen in an itemized billing is you will have to see which parts come under 28%. Because let's say you do composite, you charge 18 and you pay 28% on the parts. There would be an accumulation. If you charge parts to parts 28, there is a benefit to the customer. Because there is a loss to the customer because you are charging him 28% on the parts. So there is some leverage opportunity where you have a good outflow. You can actually make a composite bundled maintenance contract, charge him 18, take 28 as a credit and use it against your other liability. You would be able to reduce the customer maintenance cost.
But
so
there's one query, Ritesh, that somebody raised here in Calcutta, where he said that the input credit on the less than 1 year stock is only available for stock which is sold in the market as stock and not as a composite contract. Is that correct?
You are right, but which is what I said, that is 40-60% rule. If excise invoices are not available and if you sell those goods, the law says that you can take 60% credit provided you pay the tax within 6 months. So whatever C and S that you pay, so 30, I think if it is 60%, then you get 30% credit. That is what the law says, and the language used is central tax or IGST. It doesn't say that it is. See, I think you would get that 30% credit. I don't see that as a challenge at all.
Okay, can I ask you one question?
Provided you pay the tax, sell the goods and pay the tax within 6 months.
Sure, John, go ahead, please.
That doesn't apply where you have excise
My
documents.
question is, when you have an accident, when a customer has an accident and he comes to your workshop, okay, there are many components, plus there is a painting job, and a painting job is not just applying paint, but it's also applying materials, then finishing it and then painting it. How would you treat that? Would it be a composite supply?
Yes.
Or would it be a separate
I would actually treat it as a composite supply because I would actually give him a consolidated invoice without a breakup.
I mean, at the face of it, that is how it should be. But there could be parts which are quite expensive, some body parts, maybe even engine parts that could be expensive. Will it be treated separately? Because that is a big problem for us because the assessment may take place much later and we shouldn't get into a problem.
See, the law, legally the law is very clear. Whatever is naturally bundled and if you have a single composite price for the entire value, it can be treated as a composite supply. I don't see that as a challenge. Department may, see, I agree to your concern on the assessments, The one good part of it is that there is no assessment under GST. It is self-assessment. So if department raises an issue, now this is not a question of one state. This is a question of all the states taken together. And any such dispute probably would be taken at a central level as opposed to, state to state.
Yeah, because there will be a difference in opinion, obviously there.
So if you fit within the definition of composite supply, which says that anything which is supplied and is naturally bundled in the ordinary course of business, you go by the dominant nature of the work. Your dominant nature of the work is basically repairing the vehicle. And if you go by dominant nature, you can clearly charge 18% to my view. But if you are actually splitting the bill into multiple line items and you are indicating value against each of those line items, then there is a problem.
Then some goods may get charged at a higher tax
and that
rate.
is a loss to the customer if some goods are at 28% rate. Because the higher input credit of 28% you would be able to absorb against your output liability when you pay GST.
Right.
So you would recommend that we bill it as a composite supply. That is all. Most of the accident repairs we should bill as a composite supply.
Absolutely. There is no need to do any breakup or bifurcation.
Okay, all right. Saurabh, I'll give you one last word on any challenges do you foresee and what is the preparedness level of dealers in Kolkata?
So my sense is that people are very worried about the formats and invoices and how we will do it, because dealers are not just one outlet store. They are having multiple outlets, a variety of people, variety of location. In fact, our president is very happy to share always that automobile dealer is available in every nook and corner of the country. So you can find one in the remotest corners, and how you ensure that implementation is at that location is a big challenge and worry for us. Also, the amount of time that we've been given on the implementation going forward is a concern for us, because there is a lot of we all operate on multiple softwares, multiple DMSs, and our own accounting softwares. Upgradation of them is also a challenge for us. And the biggest worry that is dogging all of us today is the input credit on our stocks. And unless and until the government does something about it, it's a huge loss, 3,000 crores. And add to that another 20,000 crores of funds requirement by car dealers. Bankers would be happy, but for us it's a question mark.
Pritesh, last word to you. Do you foresee any relief on the existing stocks front?
See, I really don't know.
And is there a way to sort of...
So the last GST and GST Council meeting, I think the statement which was made was that we are not going to do any rate changes. So, whether that act has been seen as an indicator in terms of whether any further relief would be granted or not granted. Because earlier there was a 40% rule, now it has moved to 60%. CTD is one provision which dealers can benefit from. How much are they able to push their manufacturers to issue CTD is one point which needs to be looked at. The rules are in a draft stage. Let's see how they evolve. On the preparation side, I just have one comment to make. See, my data capturing is not going to stop.
Right.
I will have to start capturing data from July 1.
GST compliant.
Yes. Only relief which I get is from a credit perspective, because if it was not itemized reporting by my vendor, I would have not got credit. So now I can take credit irrespective of whether there is a reporting from vendor or not, provided I comply by 5th September.
Right.
So I would get some time to educate my vendor to say that this is how you need to file your returns. So that preparation time helps. But from a data capturing perspective, if I have to capture all my expenses, all my income, there is no solution. I will have to modify my IT system before July 1 itself. Otherwise, there would be a huge amount of backlog.
Okay.
One issue which I wanted to highlight, because it is auto, car leasing companies.
Right.
They are in a much larger fix today, because what has happened is that they lease their cars to the customer and their inventory is actually capitalized. They don't treat this as an inventory in books. And there is a representation which has been filed by car leasing companies for credit of that 60%. So that is one big issue which is...
Because it's actually not a sale, it's a lease.
So what they do is they capitalize in the book, it's not stock.
Okay.
And the car leasing business is being impacted with this quite strongly. So the existing leases are actually getting terminated because of GST. So there is a representation which is already lying. Because it was auto, I thought probably...
No, absolutely. I do want to get Saurabh in on this. Have you had any conversations with your manufacturers on the CTD?
So, see, manufacturers till now, for example, I deal with Ashok Leyland and Mahindra and Honda Cars. So, Honda Cars has told us that for stock which is more than 1 year old, they have not yet clarified, but M&M has clarified that they will be providing a support for stocks which is less than 1 year old. And so, for example, the CST losses, etc. Ashok Leyland has come out and said that we will take a call together, and as family, we will do whatever needs to be done. And I hear similar kind of feedbacks from other OEMs also across the board, as far as vehicles are concerned. Now, as far as parts and all are concerned, we don't have any idea about it, because we are also confused and worried about going forward with this. As far as CTD is concerned, we don't have any clarity. Nobody has spoken to us in that detail with us. I don't know if John and Vinkesh have some input on that.
Vinkesh, do you have an input on it?
No, my manufacturers have yet to come out with this.
So for CTD, the company is waiting for the format to come over. Yeah, they are prepared to make that sheet, but still they are also not clear what the format will come and how will they be able to help us.
Absolutely.
But they are happy with this form, because now they will not have to create excise invoices of the vehicles which have come through local stocks, RSOs, not directly from plant. Because majority of vehicles in bigger states come from the stock RSOs. So that one big hassle from them is over. So one format will cover all these stocks within 1 year. So we are waiting for that format to come and close it.
Sure.
No, just one point is they've missed out importer in a CTD.
Okay.
The rules which have come out, they don't cover importer. So what happens to imported cars?
Let's hope that we all get
It seems to be
a
lacuna, but let's see.
That gets fixed, and the CTD hopefully will take care of some of the pain on the transition stock. Saurabh, Vinkesh and John, thank you so much for joining us on Bloomberg Quint. Thanks Ritesh for answering those queries, and thank you so much for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you.